Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we talked on Friday about the award of the Nobel Peace Prize to Maria Corina Machado, and I think we agreed that she hasn't really done very much for peace. Her career, her long-standing career, has been one of whipping people up into a violent hatred, and that's kind of what she's been doing in Venezuela. Um, what I think is kind of interesting is that the Nobel Committee knew very well what it was doing because she was very well known among regime change advocates in Venezuela. So they knew perfectly well this isn't some human rights kind of idealist, some grubby little person, recording human rights abuses and then writing letters to Human Rights Watch and there's some human rights abuses. Please take note. No, they knew exactly who she was, and therefore they provided a sort of a rationale
A cover
for
story. A cover story.
exactly for a regime change operation. And I think the more one looks at Trump and the Trumpian way of thinking, this is a man who does believe that Central and Latin America is America's backyard. I mean, he just goes back to that way of thinking.
And all the more so in the context of what we've already talked about today. Um, um, Trump and the people around him emphatically, emphatically say this hemisphere doesn't have anything to do with anything else. Okay?
Right,
Nothing else.
right.
Don't even bring it up.
That's right.
Okay?
That's
Look,
right.
we're trying to play nice in the Middle East. We're trying to play, we at least talk to the European
Right.
leaders, like school children. We talk to when it comes to this, butt out.
Yep. That's
They're very adamant about it.
That's right. That's right. And that's very much his thing. You know, Monroe Doctrine. Remember, he talked early in his administration. He hasn't brought it up again about taking back the Panama Canal.
McKinley is his
Yeah,
hero.
McKinley is very much his hero. Now, the one interesting twist to this was, well, that she got it rather than Trump himself. Obviously, he was a little disappointed. However,
Miffed. Miffed is the word.
miffed, I think is a.
Miffed is the word.
However, what's interesting is that one of the people who had contributed to promoting her candidacy.
All right, everybody, hear a drum roll. Can you hear? Go ahead, George.
Yes, one of the people promoting her candidacy for the Nobel Peace Prize is Secretary of State
Hey,
Marco
Marco.
Rubio. And here is let's take a look at this letter that he wrote with some colleagues. Um, let's see, when did he write this letter? August the 26th, 2024. So that's already some time ago. Dear members of the Norwegian
Yeah, but
Nobel Committee.
within the time frame for this year's prize.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. He was, last year, couldn't get it to last year, but it's very much within the time frame. We write to you in support of the nomination of Maria Corina Machado for the Nobel Peace Prize. In our work as policymakers who strive for democracy and human rights in the face of dictatorial regimes in the Western Hemisphere and beyond,
Wake me up when it's
our
over.
work.
Wake me up when it's over. Okay.
We have rarely witnessed such courage, selflessness, and firm grasp of morality. I like that firm grasp of morality as we have in Maria Corina Machado. And then they go on and on. It's a long letter. And then they conclude she has risked everything to rally the previously flagging spirits of the Venezuelan people. They have suffered 25 years of oppression, torture, murder, and economic deprivation at the hands of the Chavez Maduro regime. who has systematically undermined democratic institutions and perpetuated a regional crisis of monumental proportions. So,
It's amazing that Marco Rubio would put his name to that because Marco Rubio is at the very center of these regional this regional crisis.
exactly. So she stands as a beacon of hope and resilience, her peaceful resistance to tyrants, her ability to organize and lead a non-violent movement for democracy.
Non-violent. Oh, really?
Non-violent, yeah, is exemplary. Her unwavering moral compass and commitment to them. This is a real pitch. This is a real, I mean, this is boom. I mean, they're piling on the superlatives.
Yeah.
Um, and then she and the movement she created represents a stark contrast to the Maduro dictatorship and supporters around the world who have helped him subdue and oppress and so on. And then we hope the Nobel Committee will recognize Maria Corina Machado's remarkable contributions, granted distinction she so richly deserves. And then here the senator who signs Rick Scott, senator, Marco Rubio, senator, Representative Mario Diaz-Balart, and Maria Elvira Salazar. They're from the House. So, the usual gang. So that was the letter then. But then earlier this year, little Marco also penned a love letter for Maria Corina Machado. This is April the 16th, 2025. This is Time magazine introducing the 2025 Time 100 Next, the 100 most influential people of 2025.
Is this the only thing that Time magazine sells about their lists now? So, remember that when we were growing up, the book of lists?
The list,
That's what Time magazine. It's turned into
yeah,
a
that's right. The 100 most influential people. The 100, the 100 people under 30, and so on.
then the most 100 influential people under 30 who still have their hair.
That's
Okay.
right.
It gets spliced and
It
spliced.
gets like this. So if you don't get on one of these lists, well, you really are an insignificant person. And so here is Maria Corina Machado by Marco Rubio. So there he pens this. He's Secretary of State, and he has time to pen a love letter for Time magazine. Maria Corina Machado, the Venezuelan Iron Lady. So the Iron Lady, of course, we remember that was Margaret Thatcher, who was the original Iron Lady. She is the personification of resilience, tenacity, patriotism. Undeterred by formidable challenges, Maria Corina has never backed down from her mission of fighting for a free, fair, and democratic Venezuela. Machado's guiding principle has remained the same since I first met her over a decade ago. So this is a
When I put her on the payroll.
put her, yes, exactly, to leave for her children and so on. A country free of tyranny. So, it goes on and on like this. Now, here's even the New York Times was a little puzzled about. I should say also that since she won this award, Marco hasn't said anything. I mean, having penned all these love letters and so on, he hasn't said anything. She won this award. And he didn't say, yeah, thanks to me. I put in a good word for you. I nominated you. Said nothing because his boss isn't too happy. So he says
Yeah.
nothing.
I think that Trump has given little Marco the evil eye more than once in the last few days.
I think so. And neither has the other guy from Florida, the U.S. representative at the United Nations,
Oh, I mean Walls. Yeah.
Mike Waltz. He also, from Florida, said nothing. They all know. Just don't bring this up. Don't bring up the subject. While Trump may still be in a foul mood over this.
Can you imagine, the gatekeepers of the old bill? Don't talk about the Nobel.
Exactly. Don't talk about Norway. Drop the subject of Norway, Scandinavia, no, none of that.
He's still pretty miffed about it.
That's right. It's a little like the famous Faulty Towers episode. Don't talk about the war. Don't bring it up.
Of course, it came up in the first 3 seconds.
Immediately within 5 seconds.
It's such a great skit. Oh my God.
But even the New York Times was a little baffled by this award. So here's the headline of the story. Peace Prize winner has supported Trump's military actions in the Caribbean.
They should have called it Peace Prize Puzzle.
Exactly, Peace Prize puzzle. Um, because even I think, hey, that's a little odd. You know, you're a Nobel laureate, and she has supported Trump's military actions. And then it says, has urged President Trump to help oust the ruler of our country, Nicolas Maduro. Also not very
Well,
peaceful.
the New York Times just can't help itself. It needs to poke every once in a while.
It does. I think it's because they don't like Trump. I mean, I think they just
Of
want to
course, of course.
rub it in.
Eh,
Yeah. And so here it is. She's emerged as a strong supporter of President Trump's military buildup in the Caribbean, arguing, like Mr. Trump, that Venezuela's autocratic leader, Nicolas Maduro, poses an enormous security threat to the region.
Oh, since when? Like 15 minutes ago?
Exactly. Security. That's the point. You have to kind of whip up this, wild theories in order to get the Americans to commit their military forces. Well, he's a real security threat to the region. I mean, it's a little like what NATO does to Russia. Hey, we're all under threat from Russia. This is about saving lives, she told Fox News last month after the United States began bombing suspected drug boats in the
He's
Caribbean.
about saving lives. He's killing people.
That's right. Yes. Yes, exactly. Not only Venezuelan lives, but also lives of an American people, because, as you have said, and we have heard, Maduro is the head of a narco terrorist structure of
Yes, and
Puerto
George and
Rico.
I were present in the moment when they invented this narrative.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Completely out of whole cloth. Absolutely no evidence for any of this. There's never been any evidence of this. But oh yeah, the way you don't like drugs. Well, Maduro is the one who's bringing the drugs into the United States.
And it's important to point out, even the Trump administration and its annual security reports does not say anything about narco terrorism coming
Nothing,
from
nothing, nothing.
his own administration.
That's right. And even when he talks about the Drug Enforcement Administration, it says, well, it's not really Venezuela. I mean, it's just a minor player in the drug trafficking trade. Um, and then he says, Ms. Machado, in statements to the press in recent weeks, has said that should Mr. Maduro fall, her movement was prepared to take territorial and
Of,
administrative control of
of
Venezuela.
course, without elections, too.
That exactly. Should it fall, just falls, boom. All by itself, just falls over. And that they have a plan for the first 100 hours and the first 100 days of a transition. So again, no elections. They
Does
already
that include an election, George?
No, there's no
It
elections.
looked like it.
Yeah, that's right. So it falls, and they already have a plan for 100 hours. Not the first 100 hours. We're going to call for elections, and then after the elections, then we might have a plan or a program. But no, they've already got 100. They've got the plan for 100
Well,
hours.
no, I mean, the first 100 hours, they will ban the political opposition.
Of course, of course. She has touted an economic plan to American and other investors, saying that a democratic Venezuela under her movement's control has the potential to generate 1.7 trillion in wealth in 15 years.
For whom?
That's a very good question. For whom? For I guess, I mean, she's touting this plan to American and other investors. Hey, it's for them. How would you like 1.7 trillion? Oh, that sounds nice. Well,
After I take my cut, of course. Okay.
exactly. Well, hoist us into power. You want your 1.7 trillion, you know, put us in power. Ms. Machado has largely avoided commenting on whether Mr. Maduro's removal should involve U.S. military intervention inside Venezuela. She hasn't really avoided the subject.
No, she hasn't at all.
No. In an interview last month, her advisor for international affairs, Pedro Uruchurto, said that her team was communicating with the Trump administration about plans for Mr. Maduro's removal.
It's very democratic of her.
That's right. I said, well, they're talking.
Very, very peaceful of her.
Exactly. This really is a bit much. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, for a Nobel Peace Prize winner, I mean, this is really. I mean, at
I,
least
I'm surprised they didn't put on the cover of Time magazine her holding a Kalashnikov, but
exactly, exactly, because at least Trump, whatever else you can say about him, at least Trump talks about peace. It's different whether he's realized peace, but he keeps talking about peace. I'm the peace president. I want to bring peace. She doesn't even do that. I mean, she's never talked about peace. It's all about, hey, how do we get rid of Maduro one way or another? The opposition strategy, he said, includes persuading other governments, including the United States, to take diplomatic, financial, intelligence, and law enforcement actions against Mr. Maduro.
yeah, well, they have for years.
Exactly. But he added, it has to be done with the use of force because otherwise it wouldn't be possible to defeat a regime like the one we're facing. Well, that's
But
yes.
that doesn't make any logical sense, but we'll let it stand, everyone.
No, no. And then Ms. Machado's party, Vente Venezuela.
You know why, George? Because that will be a form of lustration. They
Yeah.
want a night of the long knives.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
They don't want trials. They don't want an
No,
investigation.
no. Yes, no. This is there. This is going to be hanging people up on meat hooks.
Exactly.
Um, this Ms. Machado's party has been sharing online the threats made by Trump officials against alleged Venezuelan drug traffickers. So they're saying, if you're in the Caribbean, if you're north of Venezuela, the party wrote on X, echoing a statement from the U.S. Secretary of War, and you're trying to traffic drugs to the U.S., you're a legitimate target for the U.S. So they put this up and saying, hey, since they say, that applies to everyone within the Maduro government, you're a legitimate target. And they put this up on X. Hey, the Americans are going to come and shoot you for us. The election of Mr. Trump, who had tried to oust Mr. Maduro in his first term, was a turning point. As soon as his win was announced last year, Ms. Machado began trying to convince his allies that the US president could successfully remove Mr. Maduro this time around. In a series of interviews with the New York Times late last year, Ms. Machado said that for Mr. Trump, Venezuela offered an enormous foreign policy victory in the very, very short term. Mr. Maduro was very weak, she claimed, and through a pressure campaign, Mr. Trump could force him to recognize the results of the 2024 Venezuela vote and leave.
This is the New York Times, everyone.
Right.
I mean, the New York Times is very economical with the truth on so many things, and
Yeah,
they're saying this.
that's right.
This
Yeah,
is pretty extraordinary in a
that's
way.
right. Exactly. Um, and then Miss Machado has ties to Washington, as in Washington, that go back more than 20 years.
Ties, yeah, ties, yeah.
That's right.
These are not pen pals,
That's
okay?
right. Ties. Yeah, the ties that bind. The US government has provided financial aid to a voters' rights group she founded in the early 2000s.
It's very innocuous, isn't it?
The
Voters,
voters' rights group. Oh, that sounds right. Oh, yeah, sign me up for that. She founded in the early 2000s, and she met President George W. Bush at the White House in 2005. She has known Marco Rubio for more than a decade. And here's the picture, just in case you thought the Times was exaggerating. There's the picture of George W. Bush and Ms. Machado. And God, it's a long time since we've seen Bush. So there she is, grinning happily in the White House, shaking hands. This is 2005, so this is already 2 years into the war in Iraq and so on. She's gleefully. Look at how happily she's smiling as she's shaking hands with George W. Bush.
yeah, well, that's the casting couch for regime change.
That's right.
Get a young cutie,
Yep.
and yeah, I'm benign. I'm for peace and democracy.
That's
Yeah.
it, exactly. Exactly. I mean, that was the thing when the committee made that announcement. Somebody who doesn't know anything about it will say, "Oh, well, that sounds right. She's just, she's fighting for democracy,
It's
human
like
rights."
a housewife fighting for democracy.
Exactly, the housewife. Exactly. She's, preparing food for her children, and then after they've gone to bed, she's sort of sitting there, making a record of all the human rights abuses in Venezuela. Um, a special envoy appointed by Mr. Trump, Rick Grinnell, made an uncommon visit to Caracas, shaking hands with the autocrat, and began to negotiate economic and diplomatic
Well,
deals.
where does the New York Times get off calling him an autocrat? Is this a news story or is this an op-ed?
It's now so much a part of it. I mean, editorializing has become so much a part of reporting that you don't even notice it anymore. That somehow that they don't use neutral talk. You can just simply say the Venezuelan president. You can say the Venezuelan leader, but not an autocrat. Just to get that editorial in. But something changed in August. The Trump administration began sending warships into the Caribbean, declared Mr. Maduro the head of the terrorist organization, flooding the United States with drugs, though only about 8% of the cocaine reaching the US and virtually none of the fentanyl passes through Venezuela.
That's a sucker punch at Trump. Oh
Well,
my
that's
God.
right. And Mr. Trump ordered the attacks on the boats in the Caribbean and directed Mr. Grinnell to cut off diplomatic talks with
Okay, and
Venezuela.
these diplomatic talks, everyone, was basically Maduro was in, and I mean this, he was in negotiations to basically give away the store, and
Right,
they
exactly.
walked,
We're
and
going
the
to come to
Americans walked away from it.
exactly. We'll come to that. Yeah, they're remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Here, this is exactly what you were just talking about. A little hard to read. Venezuela's Maduro offered the U.S. his nation's riches to avoid conflict. So Venezuela's autocrat, there, yeah, that obviously there's the New York Times style book, that there's whenever you refer to Maduro, you ought to refer to him as an autocrat. Had proposed allocating his country's oil wealth and other natural resources to the U.S. and ending deals with American adversaries to appease President Trump. So this is what he was offering. This is when they were talking with Rick Grinnell. This is what Maduro was offering. And you have to say it's understandable. You're Venezuela and you're facing the United States. You're going to try and see if you can work out some kind of a deal because nobody's coming to your aid. You're facing the United States all by yourself. No one's going to come in and help you out. Venezuelan officials, hoping to end their country's clash with the United States, offered the Trump administration a dominant stake in Venezuela's oil and other mineral wealth in discussions that lasted for months. And then the far-reaching offer remained on the table as the Trump administration called the government of President Maduro a narco-terror cartel, amassed warships in the Caribbean, and began blowing up boats that American officials say were carrying drugs from Venezuela. Just say it. I mean, and then you blow them up. I mean, you don't have to actually come up with any evidence. You just say, hey, these boats are carrying drugs, and then you kill whoever is on the boat. I mean, if it happen to be fishermen, then them's the breaks.
Well, we'll never know.
We'll never know. Yeah. Under a deal discussed between a senior U.S. official and Mr. Maduro's top aides, the Venezuelan strongman offered to open up all existing and future oil and gold projects to American companies, give preferential contracts to American businesses, reverse the flow of Venezuelan oil exports from China to the United States, and slash his country's energy and mining contracts with Chinese, Iranian, and Russian firms.
Good God.
The Trump administration ended up rebuffing Mr. Maduro's economic concessions and cut off diplomacy with Venezuela last week. The move effectively killed the deal, at least for now, the people close to the discussion said. And then publicly, the Venezuelan government has responded to Mr. Trump's military escalation with defiance and vows to defend what it calls a socialist revolution started in the 1990s by Chavez. At the same time, Mr. Maduro has said he remains open to negotiations and his government continues accepting deportation flights from the United States. So everything he does to try to keep the United States happy isn't working.
Yeah, well, because that's the law of the jungle. They sense weakness. So
Right.
We're not going to share. We're going to take it all.
Right. Yeah. Um, Behind the scenes, however, Venezuela's senior officials, with Mr. Maduro's blessing, have offered Washington far-reaching concessions that would essentially eliminate the vestiges of resource nationalism at the core of Mr. Chavez's movement. While Mr. Grenell and Venezuelan officials made progress on economic issues, they failed to agree on Maduro's political future, according to the people close to negotiation, blah, blah. And they said that Mr. Maduro would not negotiate his exit. In other words, yeah, give us everything, yeah, give us your oil industry, everything, but you also need to go. Is that understood? Yeah, we'll take all
And
the oil industry,
you
but
have
you
to
also
go,
need
and
to go.
you have to go, and we're taking your pet Labrador. Sorry.
Yes, we're taking your pet Labrador. Also, can you take out the? I'm sure if he asked, what about this ransom over my head? Can you at least cancel that? Yeah, I don't think so. So, even if he leaves power, he's still facing arrest. I mean, it's not like, oh, he'll be able to retire peacefully with his pet Labrador. That's not on. And as Mr. Grenell and Mr. Maduro's envoys negotiated the deal, the leader of Venezuela's main opposition movement, Maria Corina Machado, pitched her own economic proposals in New York. Hey, I can give you more. Whatever he's offering, I can offer you more.
I'll offer his head.
Exactly. She argued that even greater economic wealth, 1.7 trillion in 15 years, awaited US companies in Venezuela if her movement launched a political transition. And then Ms. Machado's economic advisor, Sari Levy, said the investment deals offered by Mr. Maduro would never materialize without democracy, rule of law, and individual freedoms. And then the deal discussed between Mr. Grenell and Venezuelan officials was especially sweeping, representing arguably the most ambitious attempt at resource diplomacy during the president's second terms.
What?
Yeah.
Resource
Resource
diplomacy.
diplomacy. It's like, we'll take your
This
resources.
sounds like mafia
That's right. We'll take your resources. Um, Normalizing trade and allowing American companies back into Venezuela could be tempting to some U.S. officials because of the country's oil reserves, the world's largest, as well as significant deposits of natural gas, gold, iron, bauxite, coltan. So as we can see here,
But nothing for the Venezuelan people.
no, I'm sorry that you can't really have that.
Can't have
Um,
everything. Sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to take that. That yeah, we're just going to take it. That's it. And then, but here he's already compromised. Because he has
Yes.
the Venezuela State Oil Company has given Chevron full control of their joint oil projects, and the two entities have discussed giving Chevron a stake in another major oil field. And then Venezuelan officials have worked to repair relations with ConocoPhillips, which left Venezuela in 2007. So Mr. Maduro's government and Conoco have been negotiating an oil trading deal as recently as this year. All right, so I think we get the thrust of this, and it's clear Trump wants him out. Trump is going to get him out. I mean, I think that. Well, I don't know if he's going to get him out, but he's determined to get him out.
Remember, everyone, this is resource diplomacy.
Versus resource
This
diplomacy.
is maddening. This is so maddening. Okay. I'm still blown away that the New York Times actually wrote that.
Exactly.
I'm
I mean,
published. I'm surprised
yes.
because they they let the mask drop a little bit. They didn't completely drop. Okay.
Right.
But I mean, you have some real insight of what's going on here. It's
Right.
it's called mafia bully
Right.
tactics.
Right.
And Maduro, you're a dead man walking.
Yeah.
It's
It's
that's
yeah.
called resource diplomacy.
That's right. That's right. Because um, it's hard to know exactly what's going on inside Venezuela, but I am quite sure substantial bribes are now being offered to people within Maduro's circle to get him out and deliver him. It's not going to be enough just to get him out. Deliver him into America's hands, so that then he can be put in prison, like
Noriega.
as Noriega was, as Milosevic was. You basically, it's not enough just to get him out. That's step one. Step two, you deliver him to his captors, his tormentors, and then he'll be in prison until he dies. I mean, he's never going to be released. He will die in prison, as Noriega did and as Milosevic did. So that's the goal here. And I'm sure they're issuing bribes. And nobody says no to money, to be honest. I mean, it's like, I'm sure if you give people enough, they will be bribed. You can buy them. You just have to name the price.
And the people to people contacts between Venezuela and the United States is very, very strong. Yeah.
Yeah,
You take a nice bribe and we've got a place in outside of Miami for you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah.
family's there.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, they got this is a $50 million ransom that's being issued. Um, you just get even a chunk of that. You get 10% of that. That's 5 million. That'll do nicely. You get $5 million in your pocket. So um, I think for Trump, this is I think this is low hanging fruit. I think this is something that he thinks he can pull off. As we discussed in an earlier video, Iran is a much different case. I mean that's a
Well, and
difficult.
also, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because this is very much appears to be a part of the real Trump foreign policy, and it is about resources. Because keep in mind, even John Bolton supported a regime change because of the oil there.
Yeah,
Okay, but I always like to remind everyone this is also a policy of
yeah,
denying Russia,
right,
Iran, and China.
right, yeah,
Because Venezuela, I mean, when people talk about oil in Saudi Arabia, Venezuela's got so much more.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. No,
this is a
absolutely.
real prize.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But to take a step back, when has it worked out well? Okay.
It doesn't work out well, but that isn't what the United States is thinking. I mean, as far as the United States is concerned, once you can get him out, and once we can make some money, then that's okay. I mean, whatever happens
Yeah,
subsequently.
it's all kind of collateral damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just collateral damage. I mean, it's like, Libya. That was at 2011. So now it's what, almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years next March since the attack on Libya. There's no government. There's still no government in Libya. I mean, it's just a totally chaotic country. I mean, it's a civil war. But nobody cares. I mean, does anyone?
Yeah, and I would add to that, George, that if regime change is achieved, then you're really going to have problems with narcotics, okay?
Yeah,
Because the country will go a downward spiral, and cocaine and all these other things they fetch a lot on the marketplace, okay? I don't know much about the drug trade in Venezuela, but it's a report that George and I referenced here. It's Maduro is not friendly to that. That's not
no,
his thing. Okay, he doesn't
no.
like that. Are there people associated with the state that give a nod and a wink to people? Yeah, yeah, obviously. Okay, but that's not front and center of what he's all about. Okay, like I said, it's like 15 minutes ago. He was that. He was. Remember George when he was just simply a communist?
That's right, exactly. He was just a communist, exactly. Yeah, he was just.
Communist.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all. Yeah, exactly. He sat at home reading the works of Marx and Lenin. Now apparently it's drugs. But that's the way the demonization process works. So, you just have to persuade people. If this one epithet doesn't work, then you try another one. If you say he's a communist, that's not working. Okay, let's try he's a fascist. Maybe that's going to work. Oh, that doesn't work. All right, he's anti-Semitic. Oh, well, maybe that's work. He's a racist. You got to find the right combination, and then it sticks. And this is the way the media always operate. I remember they did this with Milosevic. First of all, they called him a communist. Well, that didn't really work. And then they said, okay, fascist. Oh, that sounds better. Yeah, we'll just say he's a fascist. He's an extreme nationalist. That's kind of, that doesn't sound good. So you found it,
He's a supporter of ethnic cleansing.
exactly, in support of ethnic cleansing. And so, but hey, I thought you said he was a communist. Wasn't that the whole thing about the, no, forget that. That just didn't work for us. So you got to
And
find the,
it wasn't so pushed then, but he's a Putin puppet.
is exactly that was that, but that was a
It
little
wouldn't
bit
have been so
before Putin.
strong then, but would be
That's right,
now.
exactly. The Putin puppet. Though I don't know whether that still works. I mean that how
Yeah,
effective that still
it's
is.
kind of worn out its
It's
welcome.
worn out, yeah, exactly. It's just lost its value. But that's the remarkable thing that they've done this. I don't know. I mean, I don't. How does Maduro survive? What do you think? I mean, is there a way that he can survive?
Well, I mean, okay, it's a big place, number one. A ground invasion,
They're not going to do a ground invasion.
impossible,
No.
amphibious. It's not Panama, it's not Grenada, okay?
Yeah.
Um, um, don't sell him and his movement short, okay? I mean, the bottom line, if the United States puts its all of its effort, it's single-minded, focused, laser focused on regime change, yeah, it will happen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Um, but then what?
No,
Okay. Will they get their oil riches, or will the
no.
country just
Well,
descend
they might get
into
their oil rich.
chaos?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
they can.
I mean, what I'm just saying is the law of unintended consequences is
Right.
always with us. Okay.
Yes.
But again, let's separate these things. Okay. Can they affect regime change? Yeah, I don't think I have no doubt about that. But is it going to be that kind of smooth segue to we got the oil, everything's hunky dory. Make sure you lock the gate at the border because these people are going to start coming up to the north and with a
Right.
vengeance. Okay,
Right. Right.
I mean, there's so many other things there, but I mean, I'm not naming names here. Listen to podcasts. The resilience of the Venezuelan people, and they'll fight back and all that. You take out the cyber infrastructure, you take out like they did with shock and awe, waterworks, electricity, and all. You could do that all in a week,
Right.
George. You can
Yeah,
do it
I
all.
agree. Yeah. Yeah. You can absolutely you can do all that. Um, and I think the bribery thing. I mean, I think that's you could always do that. There's always a lot of money that you can pour into that, and then you just buy people off. We saw what they did that in Syria. Hey, they got rid of
They
Assad.
probably did it on the cheap.
They did it on the cheap. I mean, so you can actually absolutely do that. Just buy people off, and then you got them out. But you never, sometimes coups succeeded. I mean, the overthrow of Allende in Chile, the United States got what they wanted. I mean, they got anti-communist dictatorship in Chile, which lasted about 15 years. So maybe they'll be able to pull it off. I mean, I tend to be I tend to doubt it. I think things have become more difficult. Coups are harder to pull off these days than they were. I mean, but back in the days of the 1960s and 70s, the Americans were used to pull these coups off with great ease. I think it gets harder and harder to do them.
Yeah, I mean, and
But
the
in
thing
principle,
is,
I don't think it's an insurmountable problem.
Chavez and Maduro, keeping in mind what George just said, is you keep the security forces and the military very happy. Okay, you
Right.
keep them. And that's one of the things that, particularly in the case of Venezuela, where you have many of these people in the security and the military, they're also on boards of companies. They get paid and all. Bribery can work, but I mean, at a certain level, saying, I'm fat and happy, I'm doing really well with myself, and I like the
Right.
status quo. It'll be lower down. Yes, with the total firepower that can be
Yeah.
used, yeah. But then again, what do you achieve? You just destroy a place. I mean, the transition is always in question. So many things can happen. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
it doesn't mean these people. It's going to deter these people with their goal. I mean, I think the cat is out of the bag. I mean, and George, you can hit me if you want if I ever say this again. Thanks to the New York Times, they laid it out. Look,
Yeah,
we're going to give you the whole store.
right.
No, 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 no.
That's
We
right.
want all of it.
We
We
want
want
all of it.
everything.
Yeah, we want you gone. And we actually want you behind bars for the rest of your life. We want you in a Florida prison as Noriega was, and we want you to die in prison
No,
as
we
Noriega.
want you to be humiliated, and we
Exactly.
want you to live with that
Right.
humiliation until you die. And that's
Right.
what it is. Um, like I said, I think if that's what they put their mind to it, they can change well, they can get rid of the government. I was going to say change might not be the right word. Change to what? We don't
Right.
know. We have a person waiting in the wings, obviously, a person that isn't particularly popular in
No,
Venezuela.
not at all, not at all. But she obviously is the one that's waiting in the wings. Now she's been thoroughly built up because, you know, Trump may not have been fully aware of her. He's aware of her now. Marco Rubio was very well aware of her. When we go back to that, that letter that he wrote on her behalf in 2024. So and I'm sure it goes back along, their relationship goes back many years. Going back to all the days when we looked at George W. Bush. That was 2005. That was 20 years ago. So she's been forging these ties with the U.S. government for 20 years, if not more. Um, and so, yeah, she is absolutely going to be the person that the Americans are going to get behind. I mean, it may turn out that she's going to fail and that she'll be outmaneuvered. There'll be somebody
Yeah, we
who's
remember the most forgettable person in politics, Juan Guaido. Okay, didn't work
I
out.
don't.
And there's nothing guaranteed, but
Right.
one thing is for sure is that the United States can project devastate power to get what they want. Uh, you can take out a government. What happens then? It's like throwing a deck of cards up in the air. That's history,
Yeah.
recent history at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we'll see. I mean, this is one story worth. I mean, getting that in the Nobel Prize there, that just boy, the plot just thickened. Okay, because it's a green light. It's
It's
like
absolutely a green light. I mean, she's a Nobel laureate now. I mean, she's a Peace Prize winner. You can't deny her the leadership of Venezuela. I mean, it's not every day that the leader of a country is a Nobel Prize winner. I mean, that's just that's remarkable. You just simply be
it's it's a
morally
nice
you
it's
can't.
an it's a nice story, isn't it, George? And
Yeah,
all by design.
that's right. That's right. And they put that in there. And really now she is in the catbird seat. You know, hey, an autocrat. We've got an autocrat on the one hand, and a Nobel Peace
Narco
laureate on the
terrorist,
other.
George. Narco
A
terrorist.
narco terrorist and a Nobel laureate. You think of a Nobel laureate, you think of Albert Schweitzer or some figure like
Gandhi.
Gandhi, exactly, or Martin Luther King, So, oh God, imagine this is fantastic. We're gonna have some Gandhi-like figure take
Gandhi in a skirt.
exactly.
Well, Gandhi kind of wore a skirt too, but anyway,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, he wore strange clothes. Yeah, yes,
That guy was, he was one of the greatest fashion statements of all time, with those glasses of his, a
yeah, yeah,
skinny
yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
Wow, you can't miss him.
that's right. But that's strange. That's strange thing
Well,
that
I think it was just a huge loincloth.
yeah,
I'm sure my Indian friend, sorry, I don't know the term for it. I apologize. Okay. I'm
right.
sure there's a word for it.
But it's also fake. I mean, the guy
Yeah, he was a lawyer.
lived in
He
London.
used to dress like an English.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
But
we're going to be following this here. This is more than ominous. I mean, this is just being telegraphed. It's like buckle up and brace for impact. We got a green light. Okay, we got a green light. Go.
that's right. Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Anyway, and remember, it's the Monroe Doctrine. We can do anything we want. Okay,
That's right. Exactly.
don't
But
object.
now this is very interesting. I was going to ask you now, if Trump promulgates, okay, this is Monroe Doctrine, we can do what you want. Um, then I imagine Putin is going to put to him, hey, well, we support the Monroe Doctrine. We're absolutely right. But we have a kind of a Monroe Doctrine of our own, this is our neck of the woods. We kind of want to do what we want. We don't want all sorts of problems arising. I wonder how Trump will respond to that particular argument. That, okay, we support your Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah, but I
We
think
have our own Monroe
yeah,
Doctrine.
but Trump will say, well, take it up with the Europeans.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we're already seeing that. I think the Trump's reversal on Ukraine, which I found most people got it completely wrong. I mean, I could be proven wrong eventually, but no, it's Europe's problem. That's it. And unlike our previous video, I think Trump is pretty aware because he knows these characters and they're Westerners. He's a realistic guy. He knows dirty tricks. He knows when a dirty trick is being played on him, at
Yeah.
least by this low octane thinking crowd. Okay, and I think he'll get Trump. Trump will say, Ukraine's not really top of my list. You can talk to Macron if he hasn't been forced from office. Okay, we got to do a video on that. Because it's really, really hard to get rid of a French president. It's almost impossible. Okay, and this guy's at the end of his rope, and this is good theater.
It's very
Okay,
it's very true. I mean, same with in Britain, where if you have a parliament, you have a majority as overwhelming as Keir Starmer has, he's going to serve out his term. He may be,
right.
in
He may be the most unpopular person in the
yeah,
country, but there's nothing you can do to
you
get
can't
rid of
do it. He may be in single digits in the polls, but there's nothing you can do. He's got the parliamentary majority. And unless they absolutely rebel against him, which is unlikely, he's gonna be around for several more years.
him.
So yeah.
All right, everybody. This is our Sunday wrap. Um, um, Hang on, buddy. I'll have to give our message
Okay,
here.
good.
We put a considerable amount of time into this today. This is a Sunday. It's God's days off, right? Okay. So that leads me directly to the tip jar, everybody, which is no laughing matter. Listen, you hear it? Can you hear it?
Yeah, no laughing matter. That's exactly what he's saying. Am I laughing? That's what he's saying. Am I laughing?
Anyway, tomorrow, 10 o'clock, drop whatever you're doing. Have a fresh brew with you. Send questions in advance on the
10
local,
questions in advance. Yeah. Yeah.
and we'll be here at 10 o'clock Eastern time. It could be um, um, it's event rich.
It's going to
Oh,
be event rich. We'll certainly be able to cover um, President Trump's address to the Knesset. We may even be able to talk in some way about the peace conference taking place in Egypt. So it's going to be a chock full of events tomorrow.
yes, because everyone keep in mind, domestically and internationally, Trump essentially has a year.
Yeah, yeah, that's
A
right.
year.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Not running again. And then you're going to get the jostling with who's going to take the mantle here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, don't count her out.
No,
Don't. Have you been watching her? I've been watching her very carefully. This is a very, very cunning politician. She is good at what she does. Okay.
absolutely.
Dismissed as a nutcase and all. Remember that in the beginning? I didn't really, because I'm not so social media driven. I was always like, well, that's pretty low attacks, and maybe they had some validity to it. But her time in office, I don't think, George. Tell me if you think the same. I've never seen. I mean, like Matt Gaetz had a bit of it, okay, because he came up real quick, okay. I've never seen in my life a freshman congresswoman just go up the summit. It's amazing.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right because she was elected. Let's remember, she was elected in November 2020. So she's only been there
Extraordinary.
since 2021. So she's only been there for 4 years. So she has really risen through the ranks. And remember, during her first term, she was censured and she was prevented from
Yeah, from
taking up
committees.
any committee assignments. They would absolutely couldn't have any committee assignments. And so that was a total humiliation. That was the Democrats absolutely, humiliated her. So from that moment on, that real humiliation, no committee assignments for you. She has now risen to be one of the most important voices within
And what
the
she's
party.
doing is truly amazing, and it takes a lot of courage. Look, George and I are not supporters of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm observing her, okay? I like some of her takes, obviously I do. But she's doing something that seasoned politicians in Washington are afraid to do. She's talking to the other side.
Right.
She's going on broadcasts and podcasts with liberals,
Yeah.
progressives,
Yep.
and she's doing it. I mean,
Yep.
she is getting traction.
Yep.
She's no longer the nutty,
Yep.
kooky
Yep.
lady that was censured. She's a
Yep.
political force all by herself.
Yep.
And, do whatever you want to try to primary her. Good luck. That's
Yeah,
wasted
that's not
money.
gonna. Yeah, but you're absolutely. That's very important what you just said. That she goes on the podcast from with the other side. That was the people who are politically very unsympathetic towards her. She goes on their podcast. In other words, she's building a potential coalition for but she is
Well,
going to run whenever she runs,
because
whether 2028 or 2030 or 2032, she's going to run. She will have
oh wait,
a interesting coalition behind her.
barring catastrophes, just like an example, like Matt Gaetz, he was adored in MAGA, but nobody outside of MAGA would touch him. See, Marjorie Taylor Greene she opens says we're going to disagree on a lot of things, but let's talk about things we do
Right.
agree with.
Yeah.
What she's doing is she going to win over the other side? It's doubtful. Okay. But what she's doing is she's making herself aware
Right.
in the other political
Right.
ecosystem. They know who she's not so kooky. Okay. I
Yeah.
disagree with her on this, and this. But
Right.
she's building a brand
Yep.
awareness that
Yep.
where some people only keep it in their own ecosystem.
Yep.
Okay, but the opposition's going to know. We know who she is, but that's to her
Yeah,
advantage.
yeah. No, that I agree. That's what you have to do. That's what Trump did in
That's what
his
Trump did.
in his early runs. So he was basically building up a coalition, and he continued with that. He continued. In other words, he was
Yeah, yeah.
winning
I
people over
wasn't he on
the other side.
he was on the View once, wasn't he? I'm pretty
Maybe I
sure.
can I don't remember. Maybe I don't know whether it was already
I
after
mean,
his
it
running.
doesn't mean before. I mean, before his political career, but I'm pretty sure he was on. I mean, Morning Joe.
Right.
He was on there all every morning.
It's on Morning Joe. That was 2015, 2016. Yeah, used to before he had a falling out with them. But yeah,
You
he
see,
was
that's what
a
I'm
regular
saying. It's that
Morning Joe.
because he transcended his
Right.
ecosystem, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has figured out that's how this works. This because there's going to be the political environment changes so rapidly, but there can be conservative Democrats,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and that in our lifetime. That phenomenon has been real and deal breaking in our lifetime, conservative Democrats.
Yeah. Exactly. That's right. Yep.
Anyway, okay, that was an aside. That was a little podcast all by itself. All right, everybody, this is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Locals, but please go to the gaggle.locals.com and we'll see you tomorrow.
Exactly. 10 a.m. Eastern time for my solo, and then for our joint live stream, and then I do my solo Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and our body's saying, "Okay, I've had it. I've been listening to this. It's giving me a headache because nobody's talking about the things that really matter, the pocketbook issues that matter to people, and that is the tip jar. Because that's the only things that matter. And Buddy's very down to earth. He has feeling
He's close to Earth, believe
exactly
me.
close to earth, but he has the pulse of the dog community at his fingertips. So he's saying, yeah, you got to start stuffing things into the tip jar. Big things that have to be stuffed in. So if you have anything lying around, just don't even leave it lying around. Just put it straight into the tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, Buddy is just going to have something, a few fewer things to grumble about. It's going to be really hard. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.